His father taught Francis to read and write, and filled his son with religious zeal unable to find books of that. However, the Drake family's lives would be threatened in 1553 when King Edward died and his half-sister Mary would take the throne. Mary was a faithful and left any of the religious reforms instituted by her predecessor. She would then marry the heir to the Spanish throne. Many English feared this union, believing that it would bring about the domination of England by Spain and the Catholic Church. The result was, as you can imagine, fighting. The rebellion, centered near Kent, began in 1554. It was called Wyatt's Rebellion, after one of its leaders, Thomas Wyatt. The rebels would lose the fight, and there would be retaliations throughout the country, especially in Kent. This included many executions. During Mary's reign, hundreds of prominent Protestants fled into exile rather than face execution or imprisonment. The Queen was nicknamed Bloody Mary by her enemies because of her persecution of Protestants. All of this was seen by 15-year-old Francis Drake, who didn't come together. It was said that one of his favorite books was Acts and Monuments by John Fox. It was a history of Protestant martyrs of the reign of Mary. Drake reportedly carried it with him all over the world. Now, Edmund Drake managed to avoid being engaged in his trials during Mary's reign. Then, in 1558, Mary would die at the age of 42 and have produced no heir to the throne. This made Elizabeth, her half-sister, queen. Mary's harsh treatment of Protestants was reversed by Elizabeth, but there was a bitterness and anger and weariness that was felt by Catholicism. Francis Drake would inherit all of these traits. I talk about these things because they will be such a part of Francis Drake's character. He was a rigid and righteous man who not only embraced the English Reformation and English morality, but rejected all things related to the Catholic Church. Everything that Drake did in his life included religion in some fashion. And these attitudes only seemed to grow as he got older. It was said that he prayed and worshiped for hours at a time, and his favorite sayings were, "By God's faith, if God wills." Essential part of his whole routine. One biographer said of Drake that he was in all things quote, extreme and uncompromising. Anyhow, as Drake grew up, his father was not a man who had a lot of money. He would eventually become a vicar in 1561, but that was not a position that he would pass on to his children. They would stay with the church. And with 12 sons, there were not a lot of prospects for him, but like Francis, he was the oldest. The bottom line was that Francis Drake's family had bond and social connection with the clergy. This meant that the children of Edmund Drake would have to make their way in the world without much support. The park was a building business. Many running gardens. The park was a large vessel, but it was generally seen as
One dead, 300 in Northridge, and marked for furniture. One of those shots died. 3 cinemans who died was a hard light over Francis Street on the side of the business when the shooting happened.
was a hard worker.
People have been shot and killed in a park in Louisville.
Likely better educated than
Mayor
most.
Craig Greenberg says the shooting happened around 9 p.m. last night at Chickasaw Park in West Louisville. We have doctors and nurses.
As he had no family in Louisville, Boulevard to Drake upon his death, which happened around 1558. Instead of continuing his life as a small-time boatman, Drake sold the market and headed back to his home.
4 other people were hurt and taken to the hospital. Police say hundreds of people might have been in the park at the time of the shooting. The shooter got away. Long Beach is looking to turn a thrift store into a homeless shelter.
Appeared to have been related to Drake. They were second cousins. Given that when he landed the job as a purser, the purser was the right man to shoot. It was not an insignificant job. Drake was only 8 years old when he could read and write. His position showed that the ship's owners were likely to trust the nephew to look after their investment. The next few years, Drake would sail along the western coast to Europe and learn his trade. He would grow into a charismatic, self-assured man. You could say that he had a swagger to him. People liked him, trusted him. And it was at this time that Drake would come aboard voyages with more brands, specifically with John
Raising his 21-year-old international
that
gardener
was a good time to introduce John Hawkins because he plays an important role in Drake's life, especially in today's episode.
Airman at the Massachusetts Air National Guard that has access to all this information. Why did he do it? And what is the damage assessment? I've been to Saudi Arabia and in Israel. I can promise you it's been very damaging.
And become an accomplished sailor.
Code justify leaks that could jeopardize America's ability to defend itself. In the last performance of the longest-running show on Broadway history, the Phantom of the Opera happened tonight in New York. Andrew Lloyd Webber's mega-hit musical closed after more than 35 years. Southern weather from KFI, clouds and frost tonight with lows in the 50s, 40s in the Inland Empire, and an 11 degrees. Low 70s in the valleys, and mid-80s by Friday. Right now it's 53 in Irvine, 53 in Blair, 55 in Burbank, 56 in Palmdale. Local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom, I'm Mark Long.
This marks the first English foray into slavery, not exactly something we can wrote about. Hawkins was disregarding the fact that trade was technically illegal to trade in the Spanish colonies without a license. While the trading happened, because they were never this was a problem. Now, administrators and senators may have been okay with these things. Spanish product was not. Last time, unsanctioned English traders cut us after finding out about the venture, Spanish product banned all the ships from trading. Now, Spain tried to control the trade of the Caribbean was unrealistic. Spanish naval presence was limited. Piracy and illegal trading was extremely common. Colonies, after all, one of the things that men like to bring them, all merchants could get into them, However, as the rivalry between England and Spain increased, so did the Spanish desire to report this kind of behavior. And as the security and colonization, they wanted to get out of this game because there was money to be made. Portugal was getting rich from its operation in Africa. In fact, the Americans wanted to fuel the Spanish Empire. Spain would take control of the Netherlands in 1856. And the there were litigation on Cordell and Cordell. All this was funded by gold and silver. Possibly discovered the richest silver deposits. In fact, these mines are still back to this day. Every year, the ships would go to Spain, each loaded with gold. That was not the coffers of the Spanish crown. Unlike Donald, saw a way to keep
Did you know you can get your prescription for lots at your local pharmacy? You can with ViralRabbi. It's the free app that can save you money on your medication. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then code the ViralRabbi coupon to your pharmacy at the drop-off counter. ViralRabbi works with over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens. And it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check ViralRabbi to start saving today for ViralRabbi.com. ViralRabbi is not a
iHeart Podcast is excited to welcome Jake Shetty to the iHeart family. Tune into Our Service with Jake Shetty, the hit podcast with a former monk shares fascinating conversations with insightful people and investigating ways to live life today on purpose. Try something new. When was the last time you just tried to try something with your partner? We're used to watching them do the same things and the same activities. Let's even do some reflecting. Listen to On Purpose with Jake Shetty on the iHeart Radio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This process repeated itself on itself. In some cases, the Spanish resistance. Each side shot off the rifles. The Spanish would give up. Some Spanish officials encouraged others to return or slid through trade winds. Upon small fleet returned to England in September 1565. His expedition returned to Spain. This time, Hawkins likely solidified his respect for information. This voyage takes one associated with Hawkins. Great would enhance his reputation as a confident and dedicated sailor. At sea, great information is worship, heartily information. As a preacher, he was said to have had nothing to passion but a natural eloquence of his father. Spain, where Hawkins' exploits raged to gain his ministers, he protested to Elizabeth offered different impressions of Hawkins from Hawkins and Spanish power. Trading with the Caribbean.
Some say the tide is almost. The truth is, the tide has left many people behind. followers to simply comment, share information, and follow. Students at my international university prefer to act, pursue graduate degrees under dedicated professors and faculty, alongside others who and social justice. Let's challenge the culture of complacency and start to succeed on purpose.
Success in jobs. However, this type of not lose instead, we travel right back into the tradition. Especially slightly as an officer, we don't know the specifics. The expedition department sex solid an area well guarded by the Canary Islands, some of these ships resisted fighting. Yeah, it's important to note that the nation would not warn the pirates.
All your personal information is dangerous.
There, the port's commander, Miguel Castellanos,
Protection against identity theft is easier with LifeLock by Norton. LifeLock by Norton now monitors your info first uses the potential identity theft. And if you become a victim, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to protect you during tax season. No one can prevent all identity theft and monitor all transactions at all businesses. So you can make sure your identity theft protection starts today. Join LifeLock today. Save up to 25% off your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go to LifeLock.com and use promo code JOY. That's LifeLock.com, use promo code JOY to save 25% off. LifeLock.
now it would be once back in England, Drake couldn't find himself a new job. That officer of John Hopkins next to September 15, 1670, he had 6 vessels, and the big 700-ton Jesus. There was also the 300-ton brass.
One adventure has comics and graphic novels for marvelous entertainment based on the thrilling sci-fi masterpieces by Marvin Summer. Acclaimed comic creator Andy Fish and his team are bringing that sense of wonder and thrill to straight on action adventures like those great old comic book stories you remember from the line. Skywagons, Haunted Planet, Station, Codename Adam Black, Age of Singularity, and the kid-oriented Wagon Junior. Join us at mywagon.com. That's mywagon.com.
Of course, no one said this was a slave trade. When pressed, people, including Spanish officials, were told the ships were going to Africa lines. And of course, Hawkins did not dream of turning the world against the laws of Spain.
Dr. Travis Taylor, we'll come back to
English would say what they wanted.
I want to ask you questions about you. I remember knowing in general that you had started at a young age working for the U.S. government in various capacities. I had no idea how many degrees you had, how many books you had written, or how many of the programs you had been working at a young age. Give us a little bit of bio info when you started. Yeah, so when I was senior in high school in 1985, a period I won the Alabama State Science Paper Competition. I built a radio telescope in my backyard that picked up radio waves and black holes and things like that. And the first prize of the thing was a summer job with the U.S. Army in a directed energy weapons lab. And so I worked there for that summer with the Army, and they liked my work enough that they offered me a job. They came away from school, and I worked a quarter and then still through a quarter. We did call the cooperative education program back in, and they paid my way through school, paid all my books and all that stuff, and I worked for them ever since. I worked the first round up until I got my first master's and my first PhD, and I got a job opportunity outside of the government at that point, going to some other space and intelligence community work. I worked in the government for 8 years.
And then in 2007, I got an offer from the government to come back that I couldn't do, and the thing that I did, I went back to work. Through that interaction, I met and with Kim off the ranch interactions, I met the director of the OT Capital, started chosen to work on that work. So it all kind of led to one thing after another. All high school kids, I guess, people work on direct energy weapons labs, but that's, pretty fancy.
Just a small carol, but it was like
sensitive stuff along the way.
in addition to
Yeah,
terrible
since I was a teenager, really, and so I guess I've got about 35 years of experience, and security clearance about longer. Really, how you have time to get all these degrees? Are you getting more? Or are you done? No, I'm actually working on a third PhD right now, and it's actually sort of a new. I'm working on a sort of a new idea program with the local university in Alabama, in the physics department. That, while it's not come around and say things you need to understand UAP physics, it's basically a physics area of concentration that would feed the things you need to understand UAP physics. It all is absolutely when the region technology put out that release about hiring you. Just like your hometown, they're a major defense contractor with offices in 17 states. They do really great work for a highly regarded company. And they hired, so they don't shy away from mentioning your interesting UFO that didn't want to win, and they did the same thing. So the guy that gave that, who was the head of Great Scout Force, he worked on other programs, really related, and then you guys work together there frequently. What do you have to do? Well, I mean, we're working for a company, a high-tech company that, our job is to find great work to do that will make the company money. And of course, our expertise has been in government research, intelligence community research, that sort of thing. And that's what we're applying it to. And of course, it is a company that's made a big business out of reverse engineering or foreign and that means, if we had a foreign equipment, we reverse engineer that work, understand it, and see if it's the knowledge to help us, in future situations. So if there were other technology reverse engineering, it would be the perfect place to do that. Yeah, I think they're leaders for it. I jokingly asked your company president I met last June, and you guys making parts of UFOs, which would go after contract like that. I didn't Yeah, well, I mean, again, we had a customer that wanted us to help them with something like that. That's, it'd be absolutely right up our alley. And we understand how to reverse engineer at least technology that we can find here on Earth in various situations. So, if we want to find something, I think it would be a work with them, and it would be an exciting research project. Spanish game to work on the UAP task force by Dave created it in essence. We put it all together. Was it in part because of the work you're doing, the investigation of skinwalkers, and is it directed, or did you know back to what it was? Well, apparently he knew about me, but I didn't know about him. I was out at Skinwalker Ranch the first few weeks. I detected some signals that made me nervous that it was potentially some bad guys doing some bad things. So I went and reported it to security, and kept going up the camp, and I got a call. So they were able to breach the office of the Pentagon, and so I went and breached the office of the Pentagon. There was a guy there that came in, and after we were done, he asked everybody else to leave, and he had a copy of my alien invasion, which was a serious study on what we would do from a military and intelligence community standpoint, even a civil.
When the
if
slaves
we were
mostly gone,
invaded by
the fleet
aliens,
did not need as many
and
vessels. Thus,
you know,
one of the ships
pretty
seized in
bleak,
Africa
but
was scuttled.
it won't
This
be
brought the
just
fleet down
fair.
to
But
8
anyway,
ships.
he
Hawkins would head north
produced.
with his
Hey,
intention to
I'm
sail
Jay
from
Trent. I'm
Bermuda,
the
Florida,
director
and
of
catch
the
the currents home.
JP Task Force.
Then, on
Here's
August
what
12th,
we're
following the
doing,
Gulf of
and
Mexico,
we
a massive storm
appreciate
struck the
brief.
fleet.
And
It would go on for 8 days.
would you like
The
to
men
come
would
help
work
us
nonstop to
solve
keep
the
the
problem?
ships from sinking.
Work on this
Jesus of
problem?
Lubeck had holes so large that the men found fish.
I've been wanting to do that, my whole
When
life.
the storms finally cleared, the fleet was in tatters. One of the ships, the William and John, was missing, having been carried away from the fleet. The vessel, unable to find the rest of the fleet,
and then
headed home on
they're
her
right
own.
at the time when the
Reach
really
Ireland,
hardcore
on the way to
work
England,
the
he
force
lost
gets
at sea
underway,
and
they
never
threatened
returned
to
again.
the California
As for
yeah,
Hawkins and Drake,
for whatever reason.
they needed
You guys put
someplace to
together
take
a
on
report.
provisions,
I
plus
thought it was
repair the
terrific.
ships.
I mean, there's
Jesus of Lubeck was in particularly
a
bad
lot
shape.
of numbers in
Some
there,
of the damaged
not
rudder.
specifics about the cases,
It was here that the
but
fleet
you can
came
read
upon
between
three
the
Spanish
lines, and I
ships
think
marching
Congress
in
did,
from
and
the
the
west
public did
toward
to
the
a
port
large
of San
degree.
Juan de
The
Ulua,
UAP
about
public
15 miles
for
from
some
the
other
very
matter
coast
together.
of the coast of Mexico.
Talking in
From
general,
these merchantmen,
without
they destroyed
violating
the
any
main
kind
Spanish
of
fleet,
laws,
legendary treasure fleet
something in
that
Gallup, what
the fleet
kinds
was
of
coming to the
evidence
New World.
that this is
Now,
legit?
Hawkins had no desire to mess with this
Yeah,
large fleet.
well,
When
what
the
I
ships
can
were in
tell
bad
you is
shape,
that we
and
had
he had
a
no
lot of
friendly port
data from a
nearby,
lot of different
and he couldn't
sources,
just run away.
but
He really didn't have a
were
lot of
only
choices.
studying
He would go to San Juan de
data
Ulua
taken
and hope that the
from
Spanish fleet would get there before he was
credible
ready to depart.
military sources. We
San
did
Juan
talk
de
to the
Ulua was a
FAA
small base,
about
only
some
3
commercial
years old.
things and
There was an
the
island in a harbor
NASA
with a gun battery plus
about
a Hudson
some of their
mainland.
civil
It was not
things, but
much.
we had
The English arrived at San Juan de Ulua on September 15th,
chain
escorting
of
the United
custody
airports
data
of Navajo,
from
the 3 Spanish merchants.
fighter
So when this big
planes,
group of ships arrived, the
military
Spanish
assets,
officials
so forth.
to greet them, thinking that this was the great Spanish fleet
mostly
that
to
they were
that
expecting.
because
It wasn't until they got close that they
we
realized
could
who was
track it,
waiting
we
for
could
them.
then
Hawkins would seize the
investigate what it
officials,
meant.
play nice. All he really wanted, he said, was to repair his ships.
We talked about
The Spanish
144
didn't really have any options,
physically
and Hawkins took
in
control.
the report,
Hostages were taken and
and
held on
only
the
one of
ships.
them turned out that we could prove trying to be
Well, if Hawkins was hoping to get out of port before the
the
Spanish
rest of
fleet
them,
arrived,
there was
he would
not
be
enough
disappointed.
data to
A
say
couple
that
of
it
days
was
later,
this
on
thing
September
or that
17th, 13
and
sails
there was a
on the
lot of
horizon.
data that suggested it was much more than some
It
things
included 2
that
warships and
people
11
want
armed
to,
merchant
people want
vessels,
to throw
plus
away.
Martin Enriquez de Almanza,
But we can't
recently appointed
talk
viceroy
about some
of
of the
Spain.
data because it was taken with
Well, I'm sure this was awkward. The Spanish couldn't enter their own port.
why
Remember, the English had control of
a lot of
everything,
people
including the guns on the island
can
and the
go
harbor.
after and say, well,
And
what
the
do
English
they
were
do? They do
ready
that
to
all
leave
the
without
time,
making
and
comparison.
they
And even if they were able to
this
leave,
is the
the
best they could
Spanish
do
fleet
with
was
this,
far more.
9-page report, whatever it
On the
was.
English side of the
Well, the
ledger,
report has
Jesus
a
of Lubeck had
lot
26
more to it
guns.
than that,
The
but
reason God had
that's
paid
not what got
Swallow
released
and
to
the
the public.
Portuguese caravel the fleet had
And
ended
for
in
good
Africa,
reason.
and a total of 11 guns
Think about it.
between them.
F-35
I could not find out how many guns
Indians
Dominion
and all
had,
that,
but it was
had
probably
everything
between
on
12 and
F-35,
20.
even the
The rest of the
the
ships,
color of the
including
paint
Drake's unit,
classified.
had only
So,
minimal firepower.
you can see
We
it
don't know the
became
details on the
a
Spanish ships,
difficult
but it's
thing
widely believed that they were
having
more powerful
everything
than
today
the
that
English
was
vessels.
at a different kind of classification.
Now, the Spanish could
We're
just
getting
not sit out in the
days
Gulf of
together
Mexico as their
and
ships
do
were
like the
vulnerable to
data
storms that were battering the region.
analysis across
Merchant
data
vessels were
sets.
loaded with
It
goods
was a
coming from
difficult
Spain to
task
the
to
New
do
World,
in
and losing
1
them would be a
year.
disaster.
You know,
For
the
Viceroy
UFO
Almanza,
public will
it was a
never
bad
be happy with
situation.
whatever
He was
comes
turned
out.
to
They're
stop
always going to be
the
griping
Hawkins,
about
but for
something
now,
they
he
don't
would
like
have
the
to work with
images
them.
that have been released.
The two sides approached each other cautiously and worked out a deal. Each side would send the other 10 hostages, make sure no one reneged on the agreement. The English would let the Spanish into the harbor for their own safety. And in return, the English would be allowed to finish the repairs
Can you say
on the part.
anything about other
For the duration of their stay, the English would man the battery of guns on the island and the harbor. Having these guns swung the balance of power to Hawkins and his fleet. We saw something pretty recent. Hawkins really did just want to repair ships.
Well,
The Viceroy Almanza had other ideas. This was the issue. Having to make deals with English pirates as a report.
we
He
studied,
could not stand
they
for
were
this.
taking some military
Almanza
systems,
secretly dispatched a
and
message to
I
Pharaoh,
think
50
3 have
miles
been
away,
released
and ordered
from
troops to be sent.
3 videos.
100 men would arrive in short order, unbeknownst to the English. Now Almanza organized his attack.
More
In
data.
the harbor between the British and Spanish ships was a large
You can see
merchant,
the work
the
of the
San Salvador,
developer,
which was now
the
used
East
to haul
Coast,
the ship that could still float, but was in such a state that we could not
the
see.
West Coast
Alonzo
warships
snuck
and
on board the
warships
Hulk,
that
which
were
was
was
150
500 objects that
Meanwhile, rowboats were readied outside of the British
you see the bunker that kept there. You would
The plan
consider
was to
both
have
of
a
those
coordinated
places,
attack.
the cases
The
that
old
came
Hulk
out of
would be allowed to
those
floor the
still
larger English ships,
genuine
the
unknowns.
Dominion and Jesus of Lubeck.
Yeah,
The signal would be given when the attack would
certainly
begin.
unknowns. And then,
The plan worked well enough until the British
I've just
noted
decided
activity
that I'm
on
not even
the
going
Hulk.
to
In fact,
listen to
twice
the
the English sent a
debunkers that are
representative to
even
the Spanish commander
out of
to
because
protest
of
their
the
obvious
data.
occupation of the
They don't
invaded
have
ship.
all the data.
However,
didn't
despite
see
noticing
all the
things were
data.
missed, the British were
And it
caught
was
off guard
matter,
when a
like you
signal
said, the
began.
UFO could land in their on their
At the time, the
doorstep,
trumpet roll was
and
filled
they
with
would be
armed men
bumped
suddenly
away
appeared
as
in
small
harbor.
gas,
Spanish arquebusiers
reflecting
emerged from
light.
fire on many
It doesn't really matter.
Spanish had
My
stormed
dad
the moment.
always tells me
They hit the
about
island
the Benjamin
unchallenged. The
Franklin
critical gun
statement of a
battery was
man
completely
convinced against his
run.
will.
The British
Is that
fleet's
another
best firepower was
opinion
now in the hands of the enemy.
You're not,
Now it was time for the
into the
cannons to take
scientific
control of the
community
battle.
for
The
peer
Jesus of the American
review,
Dominion focused their
for
fire on the
discussion,
two
for
Spanish
general public
warships.
to get their
The Spanish
review
flagships
as
and
best they
Pedro were
can.
badly damaged. The other ships of the
And
Cleric
you
galleon
know, kind of
get
like the
pummeled,
figure
and then
on the
sank
ranch.
with a shot in her
We're
magazine,
reporting
causing an
our
explosion.
work in
More than 2 men were lost
very
at
little
home.
time, open
The
there.
fighting for Almanza
So
would have been
that's
an issue.
it's
However, the island was
something that
devastated
we're
the
just gonna have
English
to learn.
fleet
It's
and
going
range.
time for us to
The
figure
Angel
this out.
sunk.
Are you
Swirled
encouraged
racing
by the
Portuguese
Congress
damaged
of
badly,
coming
they
up
were abandoned.
this week?
After that, the guns turned their attack to
Was
Jesus of
there in Huntsville for a
the
while?
ship that had been anchored furthest from the battle.
Are you
Drake's
encouraged?
Judith
And you
was
think
spared
that
the
that's
carnage.
congressional interest
But
will
remember,
actually
Judith
vote?
was a small ship on the ocean, embarked meant
Well,
for
I certainly
transport,
hope
not
it
combat.
will, and I hope
She could only hang back and
it
wait to
has
help when
enough
the signal was given.
pull
The fighting
and
would go on
push
for hours.
in both
Ultimately,
directions.
Hawkins
You know,
made that Jesus
it forces that the
was
money
already
gets
in bad shape before the
appropriated,
battle, and now it was
funds
bad
get
to the point where
expended
it never
to
made it to sea.
inappropriate places,
Hawkins turned
and
Jesus
not
into
just in places so that everything kind of goes away quietly, nobody ever discovers anything, and
Hawkins then
it
signaled
gets
for
out of
Judith to
quiet,
move forward
and they
and
forget
ordered his
about it.
men to
I
board the
think the general
remaining
public is
vessels.
done with
It was a gutsy and smart
the
move.
many hundreds of
Next, the
programs
Spanish took one of the
that
abandoned
all of
ships
us
and
want
set
to
it on
say,
fire,
all this
creating a
other
fire
is
ship,
and
aiming it at the English
when
vessels.
we know
The fire ship was ineffective and spurred the English to get the heck out of the melee.
anybody can buy
Hawkins, now in
scientific
command of
equipment
Dominion,
at such a
Drake,
low
in command of
cost
Judith, cut their
and
ropes,
measure
hang
things
out,
for
and sailed
themselves.
out to sea.
So
The Battle of San Juan de Ulua was
I'm
over.
encouraged,
The
yes.
British fleet had been sunk
You know,
and or broken.
Senator Gillibrand,
It was, by the way, the first battle by English
he
people
seemed pretty ticked
world.
off that Pentagon had
So,
found a
with
way
the
to
battle
not
over,
fully
the
fund
situation was a
Arrow,
desperate one for the
that they
English.
were sort of dragging
Fighting
their
had
feet
gone on
to
for
the
6 hours,
airport
and the
and
survivors
sort
were
of
exhausted.
come to the
The
table.
50-ton Judith was
So,
overcrowded.
you know, I
The
think we're all
300-ton
hopeful
Minion
that
was even worse.
the hold on
More
the
than 200
confident
men
and
packed
maybe
on
can
board,
get it
and very few supplies.
they can get on
Luckily
with
for
it.
the British, the Spanish could not follow. Winds shifted that night, and their warships were in no shape to pursue. Plus, they had just sunk 5 English ships and killed and captured many prisoners. And most importantly, they had driven the English from the colony.
Work at
Even if they let these 2 ships get away, they had just scored a great
So,
victory.
and I say we've got as much
Now,
public
in the
data as
aftermath of the
anybody
battle, we
collected
come
with
to the
real
most
hard
controversial
scientific
moment of Hawkins' voyage.
and I'm not saying
As
I'll
the
be
sun rose the next morning, Captain Hawkins would wake to find that his kinsman, Princess Drake, and the small ship he commanded was
it's
gone.
doable. Now,
What exactly happened is not known.
but
Drake
there
said
are a
that
lot of
Minion
people
was
out
simply
there
not
with,
there the
with
next
big
morning.
pockets. If
He
they really want
speculated
to know
that
the
Judith
answer
may
to
have
this,
been further out to sea,
somebody's
or
going to
the
have to
reefs
step
of the
up and
area,
just do
or
it.
the 2 ships simply may
Because
have drifted apart in the night
I'm not
as the
so
winds
sure
were strong.
that
No matter what
the
happened,
government
Princess Drake
infrastructure is
elected to
actually
head back to England
is
on his own.
designed in a way that
As for Hawkins,
that
he
they
felt that Drake had
can
abandoned
tell
him.
everything that they
It was a sore
discovered
spot
just from
between the 2
national
men,
security
and it is
reasons.
something that I touch
And
on in
people are
later
just going to have to
episodes.
accept that.
But for now,
And then
let's get our 2
and
ships
we're going
back
to have to figure out
home.
how
Judith would take months to get to England, returning sometime in late December of 1566 or January of 1569, depending both
here it
dates.
is.
As for Hawkins, the journey would be much worse. He had 200 men, but very few supplies. The starvation took hold of the ship, men elected to be put ashore. Some were left on the shores of what is now the Gulf Coast of the United States, and the rest of the natives. About 110 were left in Spanish holdings, turning themselves into the local authorities in a bid for survival. Most of these men were never seen altogether. They were imprisoned and forced into hard labor, living life as a galley slave. Others were executed. The Spanish Inquisition would be established to hold war shortly after the Battle of San Juan. Some of the prisoners in the fleet would suffer at its hands. Men were burned and strangled, amongst other things, by the Inquisition. Weird twist, some of the information that we have on this battle comes from Spanish sources, information that they extracted from these captives. This includes details about Princess Drake, the Spanish who would be very interested in. Hawkins reached the British Isles on June 25th, 1569. Only 15 of his men were still with him. Hawkins would say of the voyage, quote, "If I should write the war on calamities, I'm sure I will only as great as the Bible will scale the supplies." Now, Hawkins' ship, the Minion, turned out to have much of the fleet's treasure, so the voyage was not a loss. It was financial.
Now,
That was a small
certainly
victory
more
for
released
there had been more
information
than
that
400
could
men left in England,
give way
and
to
no one
trade
could order of
if
these
there were
foreign
conflicts
less.
to come.
As for Francis
You know,
Drake,
I think
he would
when
go into damage
independent
interest
house,
its
you sound
counsel
like the guy who
while
could
William
take
Cecil
a
was
direct
Secretary
air
of State.
weapon
Drake
and
cast the
upload
plan of the expedition on
in
the
your
University of
backyard.
the Spanish.
You know,
They had
I
broken
want
the
to ask
treaty.
you too about
Agreement came
the
in faith.
balloon
Might try Alonzo was the bad guy in all of this.
these objects
Of
that
course,
shot
Drake
down.
seemed to
It's
have
true.
forgotten that the English were
Seemingly
England
muddy
and
the
had a
waters
taxpayer
there, but we're gonna
settlements.
have to wait for the
That's easy
other
for a
side
guy like
to
Drake
take
to
the work here.
He's a self-righteous, obsessive. Easy
Other
for a guy
side
like
to
Drake
take
to
the work here.
He was a
Dr.
self-righteous,
Taylor,
obsessive.
particular
And he had just lost his friends and shipmates.
tonight.
Perhaps even the patronage of the local family.
Questions
All
for
because of the
and we'll
treachery
be
of the
taking a break
Spanish.
and be right
To
back.
him, Spain and the Catholic Church were demons and the Antichrist.
Give it a break.
The Battle of San Juan de Ulua would change Francis Drake. Now he had a burning desire for vengeance. Many historians look at the
This is
battle
Rabbi
of Drake's
Rothschild. How are you?
experience as something that would define him for the rest of his life. This would be his hatred for Spain and the papacy.
You got it. Then you don't have to, like, if you're a random person, you don't have to be like, is Rabbi Rothschild available? No, just save you a question. Absolutely. I appreciate that. What's new, baby? No apologies needed. No, I understand. That's how people are. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't give it a second thought. Go for it. Sure.
I'm Mark Bronner in the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Hundreds of protesters in Los Angeles have shown their support for abortion rights. Vice President Kamala Harris and Mayor Karen Bass were among those who attended yesterday's March for Reproductive Rights in LA. The event was organized by the Women's March Foundation in response to a ruling by a federal judge in Texas that would overturn the FDA's approval of the abortion drug mifepristone. 7 people have been killed at a resort in Mexico.
Oh, absolutely. Be one of the biggest cases in
Mexico where drug cartel
American
violence
history. Really, it's a very important free speech
Video shows
issue. Are you allowed to record someone on the internet?
dead bodies piled up near a swimming pool. The attack happened in Cortázar, a city about 185 miles northwest of Mexico City. Southland weather from KFI. Clouds and fog tonight with lows in the 50s overnight, 40s in the Inland Empire and Antelope Valley. A little bit of frost left in the morning, then sun and highs in the upper 60s with some breeze. Low 70s in the valleys, IE and AP. We're up to mid-80s by Friday. Really local from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. I'm Mark Bronner.
It's not even that. It says in a message before you enter the room, all spaces are public. The fact that it says that means that you have absolutely no reasonable expectation of privacy there, and that's what a court would look at.
Are these monthly payments to help me pay for things? Like putting food on the table, paying rent, or buying
Too bad. Too bad. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Why? Because when I have a room of 1,000 people, and some little tweedledee wants to say, I don't want you recording me, so then 999 people don't get to view it in the future because one person? Exactly. That's why I fought so hard against it. Additionally, Cat in the Hat yesterday, he's in there and he has all this power as a co-host, right? Well, then he leaves. Well, why is his opinion even valid anymore? He's gone. Why can't I go back into that room? Why can't I record? He's gone. I did. I was there the whole time. I was there the whole time, and I know you did. Yes. Yeah, I was. Yeah. So they got me on the one that was like great singer, but then I had another one that was like Holly McAllister that just sat in there all fucking night. Why? Like normally I wouldn't. Normally I'd be like, okay, whatever. I'll go to like. Exactly. You're exactly right. And for Cat in the Hat to be like, well, I work for Microsoft. It's like, dude, Microsoft has nothing to do with the law. It's case law. Essentially, what it comes. It comes down to, does a person have a reasonable expectation of privacy? It just comes down to that. Would a court see it as a person with a reasonable expectation of privacy? And there's not a court in the world that thinks that you have a reasonable expectation of privacy when a message comes up and says that Twitter Spaces are public.
Visit fieldofgreens.com and use code KFI at fieldofgreens.com. KFI AM 640. Forget about civil rights. Forget about it. Maybe people should have the rights of the rest of us. I'm like, what do you care? What, the couple next door to you is gay? Oh, that's horrible. They're great wrestlers. Bill Handle. No, everybody's giving it because they want all of us better than me. Of course. Live 6 to 9 a.m. on KFI and on demand anytime on the iHeartRadio app. Remember, a one-year subscription comes out to only 15 cents a day. Sign up today at coasttocoastam.com.
Right, some nominal fee. Right, no, exactly. That's why it's nominal, but essentially, whatever it needs to be. But when you have a situation where it warns someone, this is a public space, and you have one person in there who says, I don't want you to record, and not another person in there said, I don't want you to record. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. Exactly. Or the fact that there are closed caption televisions all over. You can't say to one of those, you can't say to one of those, I don't want you recording me because I don't. There's that, and you'll get essentially probably prosecuted for damn. Exactly. Perhaps, but in this case, it's the same thing as if you are in a public area and someone's recording and you say, I don't want you to record. We're in a public area. I can record all I want. Exactly. That's analog. You and I both know that's basically an analog world where you're doing something like that. In today's digital world where everyone has a cell phone in their pocket and they're able to record whatever they want, you can't say to someone, I don't want you recording this, and feel that as if that has any justification because it's a public place. Now, if you're in someone's house or in someone's business, it's different. But if you're out in the open,
part of the team on the secret of Skinwalker Ranch, season 4 debuts on April 18th. And, I've had a chance to witness the interaction of the team members off camera, away from the ranch. That camaraderie, the friendship.
They're nuts if they think that, because it says Twitter Spaces are public. It literally says that.
Those guys really do get along. It's not something that's made up
exactly
for TV.
Right, they don't tell you all their insider stuff, but and that's another thing. The fact that they can be recorded is another advantage.
Put on your thinking cap, folks. That's some good stuff coming up in our final segment with my guest, Dr. Travis Taylor.
Right, it's actually a good question because I do that all the time. Whenever I have to call anywhere and it says this call may be recorded for customer service. Well, I always make sure to record, because it's like, well, they're recording me. Why can't I record them? And there's another question against you. And there's another question to this. Do I have to make them aware that I'm recording? If they're already saying that they're recording, I don't feel as if
Never worry about drop calls.
Yeah, I'm actually of the belief that you should be able to record any call that you want, so long as it's you're one of the parties on the call, so it's not like wiretapping. This whole like one state versus two step.
You can save up to $250 a year. Go to consumercellular.com/glory, and for a limited time, get 25 off your wireless bill when you use promo code GLORY. That's
I think you can't like the questions that arise are when you have like the NFL that says that you cannot use this, any whatever whatever the little phrase is, the NBA. Basically, you can't use this without express written consent of the NFL. I feel well. I don't necessarily feel that will hold up in the future when you have essentially people who are doing what are these things called, reaction videos to things. So if you're so reaction videos all the time are on the internet, and you have people who listen. Yeah, exactly. And so the argument is that whatever your media is, NFL or NBA, is no longer the draw. The draw is the person's reaction. There's another question that arises that, like, for instance, my camera right now is recording like just me right now. Okay, that's fine. However, you'll be able to enhance sound so that you'll be able to hear eventually in the future everything that was going on in my house. It even in the future, it even does. Why? Because technology will be such that it will be able to overcome all of those. Look, you're only I understand what you're saying. You're only looking at it with today's technology. If you give no, you can get outside of the parameter. Absolutely, it's just a matter of technological bridging the technological gap. If you give us 100 years, trust me, we'll be able to watch what's going on in my head. When right now we don't know what I'm thinking, in the future, technology will advance to the point where you'll be able to see exactly what I'm thinking. So right now, when we're saying, oh, well, we're just like a 2D dimensional person on a screen, that's fine because our technology is very primitive. But in the future, you'll be able to see what's going on in my head, what my heart rate is. You'll be able to zoom in on my nose hairs. You'll be able to do whatever you want, essentially, with that. We're just looking at cameras with what we currently can, which is just basically recording a box. But that doesn't mean that's how it's going to be in the future. I mean, take for instance, like some popular sounds that have been enhanced. So, for instance, the Kennedy assassination had one of the police motorcycle officers had their microphone on. Well, back in 1963, November 22nd, 1963, no one knew the kind of all scrambled. And that's what I'm saying right now, is that we just kind of see this as all scrambled. And in the future,
people are just not answering to anyone in Congress or the so I really don't know how to respond to that. I mean, I kind of lean on the side that I think it is. Some of these guys are saying they're going to go.
You're exactly right. And then in the future as well, you'll have more opportunities. It's what is known as spatial audio. So you can actually tell and like put something into a piece of software, put that right it three-dimensionally when from where the sounds came. And that's just what I can think of. And we're still primitive in the technology. Give it 100 years. It's been. It doesn't. Here's why. If you give civilization enough time, nothing is impossible. So that means all of human existence would be basically hinging on the fact that it can't get past the enhancement of a microphone. Someone will come up with some kind of strategy, or AI will come up with some kind of strategy. There's that too. There's absolutely that too. So you gave basically the butterfly effect. You'll be able to hear something on the other side of the world with enough enhanced sound, and I'm saying that's actually the thing that you will be able to. So basically, any amount of if you have any evidence of anything, any kind of media, you'll be able to enhance it enough. So that means every conversation on Earth will basically be somehow, if you had enough technology, hearable, or civilization will stop. Meaning, civilization will end, or it will keep advancing to the point where technology is such that you'll be able to get that kind of information. Whether it's the general public who can get it, or like some kind of super clandestine organization in the future, one or the other, somebody's going to be able to do it. So, for us, you can't have a closed mind when it comes to technology. It will always find a way, essentially, if given enough time. So,
and make it be above ground, below ground, or somewhere completely different, even in a different state. And it seems to only happen within the boundaries of the fence of the property. That makes no sense. We're going west of the Rockies, Alan in Oregon. Hi, Alan. You're on with Dr. Travis. Hello, Travis. Hello, George. Thanks for taking my call.
You're absolutely right, and it continues to. So for us to say that we won't be able to enhance that is incorrect. I mean, look at a show. I mean, we even saw this a little bit like in the early noughts, or the time between the zeros and the nines of the 2000s, with CSI, a show like CSI. We're like exactly, and what we're currently at with Zoom and enhancements. That's one thing, and that's pretty trivial. I mean, basically, like that's just zooming in and zooming in and zooming in. There must be. There must be. Exactly.
That's an interesting thought. In a way, we are kind of doing that. We detected a particular signal that we're not sure where it came from and what it means, but we've been rebroadcasting the signal with various experiments and have actually had
agreed. I mean, it's the idea of like there are no limits. We're limitless, essentially. Correct, and I understand that.
That's an interesting thought. I would how we would think they are if they got tricked by Bigfoot. Yeah, thanks, Alan. That's interesting. You know, you mentioned about Bigfoot, and of course, you know, Travis, over the decades, people live in the basin, not just on the ramp, but people live in the wider basin. There's what all kinds of strange creatures out there, and things that could out there. And we know that
in one way or another. So what people don't really realize is what on earth, what kind of technology that we have, what kind of devices we have, and what kind of how do I want to say it? Evidence, or what kind of like what it's actually tracking. So for instance, Wi-Fi. Yes, exactly. So exactly. So what will be very popular in the future is Wi-Fi and checking Wi-Fi footprints. So essentially, what people don't realize, if you look at Wi-Fi on like a Doppler infrared, it's going through your house. You can see exactly where people are. Exactly. So we will literally have, in the future, people will just need an old router and they'll be able to see every single thing that someone did in the house. Why? Because all that Wi-Fi, those Wi-Fi waves are being tracked, and they're being, you wouldn't even need the router. All of that's being uploaded. Just you need the ISP data. Now, currently, it would just look like data. But when you use the correct kind of software on it, it will create a 3D print of your house and tell you exactly what was going on. And since those waves technically never end, they just go infinitely, you could be able to track. Exactly. Exactly. There's that aspect. So for people to be like, I don't want to be on camera, they're just seeing it as a camera. They don't realize all the other ways that they're being recorded. And there's
then having to come up with 30 different hypotheses, 30 different phenomena. Well, some of these phenomena,
And that's just because people know what a camera is. If you were to say to someone, "Hey, you know your Wi-Fi is recording you," they'll be like, "Well, that's pirate logic."
There's a real aspect to it. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, no, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. So let's talk about that. The Aborigines, it's against their religion, essentially their beliefs, to take their pictures. So it's like seen as very disrespectful to do so. That's how our family's going to be in the future. That's how you'll be. That's how Judaism will be. There will be something. I believe it's Getty Images. Will be like basically for the top families of the world. They'll only allow their pictures to be taken with Getty Images. Why? Getty Images will put some kind of filter on it so that the general public can't see what famous people are thinking when the picture is being taken. There's another thing that people don't realize, and that is the power of a laser microscope, a laser microphone. So basically, being able to shoot a microphone on glass, you're able to hear exactly. And that was, I mean, I've used that kind of technology in video games 20 years ago. And so to think that that's not a thing in today's day and age, Splinter Cell, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, and that had. No, it was real. It was that. No, it was real. It was real, along with like some advanced technology like night vision and some other things that the general public didn't have. Like you couldn't just buy night vision goggles 20 years ago. Exactly. So for these clandestine groups, essentially like your MI5, MI6, CIA, Navy, and the information has only gotten better. So what you'll find is that major companies will have to replace their windows. There's this special kind of window at Rothschild & Co. in London, and it's essentially this. It is. There's a little screen between the glass, like the inside and the outside, so that if you try to use a laser microphone on it, it doesn't work. So it's like a Faraday cage, and that could be it. And they vibrate it. That's absolutely, yeah. I mean, and there are still ways to get around that, where you could filter out that vibration.
And I wanted to know if you had any reaction to that.
Yeah.
You were talking about, I'm kind of a citizen journalist. I'm in a suburb of Austin. I'm in my own skinwalker ranch. It's like downtown. And I recorded a lot of this stuff.
And these are just, what we've seen and what has been basically disclosed to the general public. There are so many other things. Oh, by far. I mean, well, what they say is that 1 year on the above ground is 50 years in the underworld. So essentially, since 1947, since Roswell, essentially, even before then, we've been advancing far faster in the deep state than we have on the surface. And even the surface has gone a lot faster. There's a theory of this. If aliens didn't have any type of connection to Earth, our technology would be steampunk. It would not be today's advanced modern electronics. Why would it be steampunk? Essentially, the invention of electricity is a thing that, or the discovery of electricity is the thing that changed society more than anything. And had we not done that, and a lot of people think that was led by like alien influence. If we had not done that, we would live in a steampunk-like world, which is like very mechanical.
Look at other scientists' work and say, well, I do it for you or I don't.
Exactly. Exactly. And a lot of people think that Nikola Tesla's like that.
Footnote here, March 27th, Rendlesham UFO show. That UAP inspired British company you're asking about was called No Doubt About It, released by
Absolutely.
in May 1980. A few months before John Lennon.
Right. And essentially, many people think that these might have been like alien influence. That There's that. Yeah. So, well, and so in relation to last night's conversation, for one person to be able to say, I don't want you to record me, that's fine. That's your opinion, but it's a public space and I'm allowed to, and I'm going to do it. And now that you told me you don't want me to do it, I'm going to make sure I do. Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And for people, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I've got more data online than in person global history, so that going for me, which is nice. And essentially, so like, what will we be able to do with that? Aside from just like learning about how human existence works and things, really, the idea of what AI currently is and what it could be, there's definitely a gap there that needs to be bridged. And what would that be? Essentially, you need a human model to build your data, your foundational databases on. And if you don't have that, it will just be like edited people. Like edited people don't scratch their butt or blow their nose or cough, do anything that like normal people do. But the fact that there's this complete archive of someone online where you can watch them whenever you want is a game changer. It's absolutely amazing. That's a great question. That's really great question. I would say I can almost name how my behavior is affected. Well, number one, I get very frustrated with my internet. So you see me a little bit more frustrated, I think, because I'm always having to restart streams and do all those kinds of things. Exactly. So there's that. There's the crash of like Chrome browser crashes just because it has too much memory sometimes. So there's that aspect, which isn't even internet related per se. That's just exactly. So there are those technical aspects. So you would definitely see me get frustrated with that. Additionally, like normally I would be more naked probably in my own room, like when I would change and things like that. But because I'm on stream, yeah, I got to do it under the covers. Also, masturbation. I just do it under the covers. Same with masturbating. I used to masturbate live, allegedly live on camera, and I did until my accounts got taken down on YouTube. But it's still up on Instagram on some of my accounts. Why? Because it's like that's what I would do in normal life. I mean, I'm a human, so that's something that humans do. It's just a taboo subject. So that's something. Absolutely not. No. In fact, it's supposed to repopulate the earth, essentially. Be fruitful and multiply. Exactly. So from those perspectives, it's definitely frustrating. But aside from that, I mean, when I'm on my phone or like talking right now, it's not any different. So when I'm like, in the groove, when everything's working and all of that, it's pretty normal. I would say. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so here's the thing. If like I did this for a year having a job, it was very difficult to do because I'd always, I'm like live. I'm a project management professional for Kimberly-Clark. So a lot of it would be I was already on video because I was running projects throughout the world, throughout Asia, throughout Israel, throughout Europe, throughout Africa, and South America. So I was working around the clock. So I was already on camera in a suit and tie, and it was all very like professional. If you look at it from the cameras that are looking at me from a business standpoint. Exactly. So you're exactly right. So I was very much like that, and at least in my opinion, it was not the only thing that made it difficult was my upload speeds, and I wasn't as privy as to how it all worked. Like basically, I started realizing that I was getting throttled, and it made it more difficult to do that job. And so, I mean, but nobody there ever knew that I was live streaming them. And is it against the policy? There's no company policy on that. You know what I mean? It was so new. Everybody was in the Zoom world of post-pandemic or whatever during the pandemic that no one like, in fact, that's why I was recruited to work there. Was Kimberly Clark needed to get people back into the factories. Yeah, no, Kimberly Clark. Yep, exactly. Kleenex, absolutely. So all that kind of stuff. But they needed people to work in their paper mills, and they couldn't get inside without proper COVID processes. So yeah, exactly. So we developed a system. It's like an app. They would go in, they check themselves in the morning, and then basically be able to go into work and swipe in using exactly like a QR code. Exactly, exactly. And like essentially, like I'm sure all of that is private information, but essentially, I didn't. There was no policy against it. And well, that, no, and I would never see any of that information. What I'm saying is like Kimberly Clark wouldn't want their conversations being broadcast on YouTube. Exactly. But there's an argument to be made that I'm in my room in my house. I'm not at your facility. Exactly. And that's where it gets to. People have security cameras in their own home. So that means that everything that they're doing is recorded one way or another. It may not be broadcast to the world, but it's being recorded in one way or another. Exactly. Now, when it comes to cloud storage, it's very smart to do that. But here's the thing that at least I feel is limiting. You can't take cloud storage and make it public very easily. It has to be essentially a lot of times re-downloaded and re-uploaded to whatever platform you want. So for instance, if you have your like ring camera is a little different because I think there's a function that you can be able to publish that a little bit easier. Exactly. But essentially you can't, to my knowledge. Correct. Correct. But essentially, if you, like that's one camera. If you do have that, that's something that can be uploaded. I believe it's stored on Amazon's cloud as Amazon owns Ring. And they have like a little website for that. But essentially, if you want to take that Ring camera footage and put it on like Vimeo or YouTube, you have to download it and then re-upload it, and that takes up exactly. And nobody in the entire world has enough bandwidth to do that currently. Trust me, I've done it. I tried to. I even bought 4 different lines to do it. Yeah. Exactly. And even if you do, you will get throttled to some extent. Whether it's, like a lot of people think, oh, T1, I'm going to be fine on my, because they think about it on their downloads. But their upload is really what it's about. Exactly. And that you're blessed if you have that. But even still, you're doing this, right? Are you recording yourself doing it? Because that's what people want to see. They want to see it live. So essentially, you have to stop the cameras or whatever to be able to download this and re-upload it. And it's just not manageable with today's connectivity. I, on the other hand, just go straight to YouTube with it. So it's just already there and it's already available to the world.
delay. And as I was saying, for me, it went up and back easily because I was broadcasting from one computer, watching it on an iPad, and then you had it, and I had you on the phone. So I could hear it happen. I did it, it happens 15 seconds late for me, 30 seconds late for you.
That's correct. Now, why is there that lag? That lag is going to some major data centers around the world. It's first and foremost going to the Five Eyes, like Edward Snowden said. And then that's being broadcast. Exactly. So that's why there's a delay and it's not instantaneous, because it could be, or just about. But it's basically being sent to other places before it gets here. And people don't study that and don't know how it works. But basically, there's a little packet that's being sent out with any piece of data on your phone, and that's going to other organizations. It's for whatever reasons they want. Absolutely.
It is caching things in places.
Exactly. So essentially you've got like there will be lag, but when it comes to the amount of data that we have here, it's by far unprecedented. Now, is it all the best quality? No, but again, when computers and bandwidth catches up to this, so to speak, it'll be very easy to replace pixels. And the fact that I have it on 6 different streams, you can easily get the more than that, because I don't even count Instagram, I don't even count Discord, I don't count Kick, and I don't count Twitter. But those are all ways that it's being recorded as well. So let's say the sound went down on one of the, like we only look at the YouTube streams, and I know it's sometimes choppy to hear what I'm saying on some YouTube streams during some aspects of the stream, but that doesn't mean that you can't just take the sound from, Twitter or from Instagram and put it alongside that video. It's very easy to do. And it's exactly. Oh, no, I haven't. So, and that's using likely AI technology to be able to do that. Primitive. I understand. Okay. I understand. Essentially, though, what we have is it's an unprecedented amount of data. So for someone to come over and one person to be able to say, I don't want this, is what do I? Yeah. It's a good question. I can tell you it's approximately, last I checked, I mean, like I can know this because I've used a VPN recently. Yeah, it's about 100 gigabytes per device per hour or so. And so the fact that I've got like at least 10 different, yeah, because that's how big video is. So it's basically what you're asking is how much is an hour long video, and that's pretty accurate that it can be that
whatever format with the settings so that the server that you're doing, let's say syncs to YouTube or iMovie, they are like allocate so much cloud space to you and really kind of domesticate using those parameters. If you gave it with a hint that they're going to convert it, then it has very, very little processing machine to do. You just feed it in and checks, okay, here the parameters, different parameters, and
perhaps. But when we're looking at, like, we're putting about a terabyte through an hour, it's not that much because I've been throttled, but under ideal circumstances, that's just an incredible amount for any router to take, especially like a little residential router.
You get so much allocated. So we can do what I can. It's my thought.
That's true. And like we're at a very interesting time where, I mean, and I use him as an example, but basically the first person to really make podcasting mainstream was Joe Rogan. And then he has video aspects of his podcasts, which he absolutely, but they're limited. They're like at most 4 hours. Now it does take a lot of time, and they're edited too. So that but exactly, you won't see it. You're right, but they do go to the bathroom on the stream and not like recorded. It's in another room, but so they'll have to take a little pause or whatever. In this case, I mean, I want it on camera. I make sure to do my best to shower every day on camera. Now, like at least. No, I understand. I understand that. But essentially, right.
Fail when bonds are continuing safe at your house, and now you can also hold it in a retirement account. In fact, if you have an IRA or 401k that's tied to a risky stock market, you can roll that over without spending an additional penny. For a physical IRA and precious metals, convert gold and help you own physical gold in a tax shelter. I've known Birch Gold for a long time. They've been on the show several times. Just text the word COAST to 989898 and get a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation to educate yourself on how to diversify in this highly volatile market. With an A+ rating with a Better Business Bureau,
You're right. And if you are recording it, it's even more. A lot of people don't realize.
Honest advice is protecting your savings with gold. Text COAST to 989898. Because all your personal information is all in one place, getting emailed, shared, and possibly.
There are aspects of it too, like the people are afraid. I mean, I can hear it in people's voices when they realize that, holy shit, somebody has broken the almost like the sound barrier, but like the privacy barrier, where they have their whole life online. I mean, in Big Brother, in the book 1984, they put cameras